the armor, we can assume that police interview is going to come into evidence unless a plea is entered. But I haven't yet been on with you to say, were you surprised at all that 3 individuals, including Alec Baldwin, were charged with crimes in this shooting?
I think the most surprising of it was Alec Baldwin's charge. I think because of how long this investigation took and the fact that they took so long to bring any charges, I think it was indicative that they were going to bring some. They were kind of dotting their I's, crossing their T's. The armorer, who's kind of responsible for the weapons, and the assistant director, David Hall, also responsible for safety on the set. I think it wasn't a far-fetched that they were going to have some sort of negligence charges. Alec Baldwin, on the other hand, that one is a bit of a surprise because in his role as an actor, whether or not he should have any kind of culpability about whether or not there was a real bullet in that weapon, I think is going to be actually very hard for the prosecution to prove. Definitely a big question mark there.
And, you know, I have to tell you, I inadvertently hit print instead of reading through the police investigation report. And I can tell you it was probably about 500 plus pages, a huge stack that I'm now reading through to get all the details. But to your point of that investigation, it's a longer report than I think I've ever seen. Let's listen together to your point about proving this and what the district attorney had to say.
He was the actor that pulled the trigger, so certainly he's charged as an actor. But also as a producer, he also had a duty to make sure that the set was safe. And we know from our investigation that there had been accidental misfires prior to this, that there were people that were complaining about safety on set. And so he should have been aware that safety was an issue on set. And then as an actor that day, he should have checked that gun, checked those projectiles.
You know, what's interesting is that most of the experts that we've had on that I've spoken to have said an actor doesn't have that responsibility. They have that right. Certainly they can check the gun, but that's not the responsibility of the actor. And so it does feel like these are charges for an incident that's not on a movie set where there's specific people responsible for each piece.
Well, exactly. And I think that's, you know, the DA there is saying that basically it was unreasonable. His actions, when compared to somebody else in his situation, was unreasonable. That's what they had to prove in a criminal charge. And I think they're going to have a hard time proving it. It sounds like they're going to say he was an actor, but maybe he had this enhanced knowledge because he was a producer. Most people in that circumstance would have maybe checked the gun. But the fact is, I've also talked to a lot of people, I don't think it is industry standard for the actor to always double check what the armorer or the assistant director tell them about the weapon. So that is going to be, I think, really kind of easily disputed by Alec Baldwin. And the second part was she said, just the mere fact that he pointed the gun at somebody shows negligence. You should never point a gun at somebody. And I think outside of movie set, that argument is a lot stronger. There in his role as an actor, the scene called for that. That's going to be also, I think, a little bit harder for her to prove that that was unreasonable.
Right, and I also think we're going to see the battle of the experts on both sides. If these cases go to trial, they may or may not. All right, do you think that they're already preparing their defense? And here's what I mean by that. We have a statement from Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. Now, again, this is the armorer, and here's the statement from her attorney. Hannah is and has always been very emotional and sad about this tragic accident, but she did not commit involuntary manslaughter. These charges are the result of a very flawed investigation and an inaccurate understanding of the full facts. We intend to bring the full truth to light and believe that Hannah will be exonerated of wrongdoing by a jury. So, number one, good. Hannah didn't come out and say anything because attorney advice would be don't say another word. Let me issue the statement. And number two, they're already starting, I think, the statements to say, yeah, there's a defense. The investigation was flawed. She didn't do anything wrong.
It's interesting because one of the comments that the DA said was that they never discovered how these live bullets actually got on the set. And we know through the investigation that there was more than one. There was quite a few actually that ended up on the set. And I think that Hannah Gutierrez is going to have a strong argument that she, didn't bring it on the set, and so she had no reasonable expectation that there would be a live round in the ammunition that she put into the gun. And that fact, the DA says it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that we didn't find out how it got on the set. I think it's actually going to matter quite a lot in order to prove reasonable, to disprove the reasonable doubt, essentially, that the prosecution has to prove.
So we know that one of the three charged, and he was not charged with manslaughter, but a lesser offense, but he did, I think it was negligent handling of a gun. But in any event, regardless of the exact name of that charge, he entered a plea and he's avoiding any jail time. Do you think, Dina, if you were to speculate, do you think that they reached out to these two defendants, including Alec Baldwin, to say, do you want to negotiate? Do you want to enter a plea? Or do you think this is the first time Alec and his attorneys are hearing about he's going to be charged?
Okay, that is a really great question, because I think that the plea deal that they made with David Halls is going to be crucial. We don't know yet what he's going to be willing to say in testimony. We know he's probably going to end up testifying against them in trial, and he may very well kind of fill in the gaps that the rest of us are seeing and looking at the evidence so far. So I think Dina, it's actually going to end up being pretty crucial testimony.
Yep, so sorry. Thank you to Dina Sayeghdal, Nima Rahmani joining us.